Martin Lloyd-Jones wrote a book called Water That Divides. In that book, he was actually discussing the different kinds of baptisms that are existing in the church and also the issues that actually divided the church. Truly, a lot of people have questions, and their questions almost make them into groups. Which baptism is right? The child baptism, the sprinkling baptism, or the immersion baptism? Which one is the right? Now, I would like to explain to you how these baptisms have evolved, and I'll try to finally present to you the true biblical method. I'll give respect to every kind of baptism that is prevalent in the church because they have evolved out of an issue, out of a problem. For example, child baptism, how it all evolved. In the earlier days, the child mortality rate was very high. If the parents are Christians and if a child is dead, the child cannot be buried in a church cemetery because a person becomes the member of the church only through baptism, and that boy or girl were not baptized and they are not the members of the church. So they can't find a place in the burial ground. So when this issue has come up, church leaders like Augustine and others suggested child baptism. When the child baptism was suggested, it should be having these conditions. Number one, the parents, and two, godparents, that is godfather and godmother. They should stand before the church and they should promise to the church that they would raise this child who is being baptized at that time in the word of God, and they would ensure that he would become the child of God. And when this child grows up into an adult and when he is born again, he declares to the whole world that he is born again, and he confirms that the baptism that was given when he was a child is now real. That means he gives a kind of a ratification to the baptism that happened when he was a child. That's how the child baptism was prevalent in the church history. The second one was the sprinkling baptism. Sprinkling baptism actually evolved somewhere in the 17th century after Martin Luther has given a lot of freedom to the Bible. When the word of God has been preached, a lot of people accepted Jesus Christ and they need to be baptized. And some of them were having skin diseases and they could not be baptized in the church baptismal tanks. In such situation, Martin Luther suggested that the sprinkling baptism be followed. That's how the sprinkling baptism has come into the church. So these are the two baptisms, the child and the sprinkling, and the historical evolution, how it have taken place. Having given this and giving due respect to these two kinds of baptismal, let me explain to you what exactly is the biblical method of baptism. For that, I would like to take Romans chapter 6, first 14 verses. In that, Paul clearly explains the method of baptism that should go, and actually the symbolic explanation he tries to give in that. In that, he says that when you are dipping yourself into the water and coming out of it, symbolically you are declaring to the whole world certain things. Number one, when you are dipping in, you are telling that I am burying myself, and that is my sin and my past is being buried as Jesus Christ died and was buried. When you're coming out of the water, you are declaring to the whole world, behold, I'm a new person, I'm born again, and I'm having a fresh life. So through that, you are declaring to the whole world the message of cross and the resurrection. Through baptism, you are declaring to the whole world what has happened in secret world, in commitment, in private life, you are declaring into the public. So through that baptism, you are declaring your relation with Jesus Christ. So my friends, this is our prayer and this is our wish, giving due respect to all kinds of other baptisms. If you don't have issues, if you don't have problem with your church, I would suggest the best is to go for the biblical immersion baptism. Regarding this, if you have any questions and if you have any prayer requests, please chat with Tipritv Life Mentors.